we locked and loaded our weapons, and they would be loaded for the next year. And you just never knew. After you crossed into Iraq, like I said, you didn't really know what was going to happen. So. As that car began to get closer to us, I had this feeling that not all was right. I couldn't explain why, but it was one of those feelings where kind of the hair begins to stand up on the back of your neck. And I remember making eye contact with the guy in the car. Well, at that moment, as we began to get up, all that I knew is that I was just surrounded in a fireball. There was 500 pounds of TNT, of dynamite, of artillery shells packed in that station wagon. And he was just looking for soldiers to basically run into and blow up. In all, 8 guys were killed, and it was the guys who were all around me. This is where the shrapnel hit the helmet. It ripped it, and then sort of, if I took this off, you could tell that it sort of bent it up as well. So it hit, kind of tore it up, bent it up, and then went off this way. At the same time, over here, there was another piece of shrapnel that went through the chin strap and blew it off. But the fascinating thing about it was I should have been dead. I was a field artillery officer, and I knew, I mean, if one artillery shell of 155 explodes within 50 meters, it's called the kill radius, and everything's supposed to die. And I was about 15 feet from this car that had all of this just stuff packed in it. And it was a miracle that I had even survived. All these other guys that had been around me were just gone. I was sitting there on the hospital bed, and I just got down on the floor of the hospital, and my prayer was very clear. I said, God, my prayer is that you would take what was bad and that you'd turn it in for good. And I pray that I wouldn't experience this and that I could use it for your glory. And that was the last night I experienced a nightmare or experienced any sort of traumatic event. And I can talk about it freely now because I just sort of gave it to God, and God has just sort of taken it from me. After a couple weeks, they decided that my ear was bad enough that they'd send me back to Germany in order to do surgery on it. Well, I got back to Germany, and I got into the hospital system, and before the surgeons could go to do the surgery on my ear, they were checking it out. They told me it's already healed. You don't have to have surgery. It's good. I was so grateful. I mean, I was so thankful that God had given me essentially my life. I mean, He spared my life, and then He healed my mind, and He healed my ear. But my question is how am I going to remember April 29th? Because it's such a horrible, it's a blessing, it's a miracle, but how am I going to remember it each year? And the funniest thing, God had other plans. Exactly 1 year to the day, to the hour later, I was going to the hospital in Iraq because I was injured. The exact same time, a year later, I was going to the hospital to visit my son, and he was born on April 29th, 2005. And it was just one of those things where I was filled with this emotion, and God says, you're not to be sad on this day. This day is to be a day of happiness for you. And I was just overwhelmed. And I was like, okay, God, I'm not going to be sad on April 29th. And it's true. So in the whole process, God was calling me to ministry, and then God saved me in order to do ministry. I'll graduate here in December from Southwestern with the MDiv, and it's really been a prayer of ours what God wants us to do. To go into the chaplaincy with combat experience is a definite advantage because you can literally tell the soldiers, I've been there too. I mean, it doesn't matter what situation you are in life. If you're in downtown Fort Worth or if you're in downtown Baghdad, God is all.